Hello. For today, I want to answer the topic regarding images. For those outside the Catholic Church claim that we Catholics commit the sin of idolatry for having images of the Virgin Mary and the saints. However, what people don't realize is that the Bible doesn't speak against image. The Bible speaks against idols or false gods. Because if the Bible did speak against images, those who have a portrait or a picture of a family member or a loved one, the majority of the world would be sinning, because almost all households have a portrait of a family member. Also, everyone has money in their pockets, would be sinning, because money has the image of a person. So what is the Bible speaking against? The Bible speaking against idolatry? Idolatry is the belief that someone, something, or an animal is equal to or greater than God. Having a poster of your favorite singer is not a problem. It's a problem when you say that singer is God. Having an image of the Virgin Mary is not a problem. The problem is when I say that the Virgin Mary is God. We Catholics do believe that Mary and the saints are in heaven, but we don't say that they are God. The verse that is commonly used is Exodus chapter 20 verses 3 through 4. 3 Thou shalt have no other gods before me. For thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Pay attention to verse 3. No other gods before me. Here, God is telling us not have to images. God is telling us not to worship false gods. In verse 4, God is not telling us to avoid images. God is telling us to not worship anything found above heaven, in earth, beneath the earth, or water. For example, if I consider the sun to be a god, I am committing idolatry. If I consider a fish to be a god, I am committing idolatry. In Exodus chapter 34 verses 14 through 17, God again mentions that he doesn't want people to worship false gods. 14 For thou shalt worship no other god. For the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. 15 Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a-whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. 16 And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a-whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a-whoring after their gods. 17 Thou shalt make thee no molten gods. In verse 14, God is telling us that he is jealous of false gods, not jealous of images, because there is no other living God. Verses 15 and 16 tell us that the people would go to other places to worship false gods. Not only that, but they would take their own daughters and sons to follow false gods, and those daughters and sons worshipped and offered sacrifices to those false gods. Continuing with Exodus chapter 32, verses 3 through 8. 3 And all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. 4 And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. 5 And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation, and said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. 6 And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play. 7 And the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down. For thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. 8 They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Here, while Moses was talking with God, the people who were saved by God, instead of being grateful and obedient to him, they, with the assistance of Aaron, created a calf from golden earrings. But the anger of God came when they began to worship and offered sacrifices to the golden calf. In Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 25, 25 The graven images of their gods shall ye burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it unto thee, lest thou be snared therein. For it is an abomination to the Lord thy God. Here God gave the command to burn down false idols that are being worshipped. And in the first book of Chronicles chapter 16 verse 26, 26 For all the gods of the people are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. For all of the gods that are man-made are idols, but only true God is heaven. Remember that earlier in Exodus 20 verse 4 God said not to make any images of that is found in the earth. Another verse used is Psalms chapter 115 verse 4. However, if we read it from the beginning, 1. Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory, for thy mercy, and for thy truth's sake. 2. Wherefore should the heathen say, where is now their God? 3. But our God is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. For their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. 5. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. 6. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. 7. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. 8. They that make them are like unto them. So is every one that trusteth in them. Verse 4 explains that idols are made from silver and gold, from the hands of man, meaning the people are the ones who craft the false idols. As verses 5 through 7 explains, we can pray to them, but they are not able to speak, see, touch, walk, hear, smell. Why? Because they are false idols made by man, while our God who is in heaven is able to hear us. Another detail people don't mention is that during Exodus God spoke through images of 2 cherubims. The following verses mentions cubits and cherubims, which are angel-like beings. Starting with Exodus chapter 25 verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, here God is speaking and giving a command. It's not Moses giving the command. It's not one of the people, it's God. With that in mind, pay attention to the following verses. Starting with Exodus chapter 25 verse 10. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. Again, it's God giving the command to build a wooden ark with 2 cubits. The 2 cubits were about 18 inches in length, or around 45 centimeters. This would make the ark around 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches tall, meaning the ark wasn't something small. Exodus chapter 25 verse 18 also gives us another detail about the ark. 18. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Here God asked for the cherubims to be made from gold. But remember what Psalms chapter 115 verse 4 said? For their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. Now Exodus chapter 25 verse 22. 22. And there I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. God could have communicated with the people in any other way? Yes, but God chose to speak through the images of the 2 cherubims. Now does that mean that God is contradicting himself? No, it just means that if God chooses to speak through an image, we have to accept it. If God gives the command to build images from gold, we have to accept it. There is another moment in which God allowed the people to present themselves to an image. In Numbers chapter 21 verses 6 through 9. 6. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. 7. Therefore the people came to Moses, and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord, and against thee. Pray unto the Lord, that he take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. 8. And the Lord said unto Moses, make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass, that every one that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. 9. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass, that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. Here again, God gave Moses the command to make a brass serpent. That way anyone who was bitten by a serpent, all they had to do was look at the brass serpent, and they would be healed. Could God cure those who were bitten by the serpent himself? Yes, he could have. Could God tell Moses to create an antidote? Yes. But the people were cured by looking at a brass serpent. In the 2nd book of Kings chapter 18 verse 4 we hear about that same brass serpent, but this time there is something different. For he removed the high places, and brake the images, and cut down the groves, and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it, and he called it Nehushtan. Here, that same brass serpent that people used for being cured from the bite of a serpent is now being worshipped as an idol called Nehushtan. This is the issue that the Bible is speaking against worshiping false idols. If I have an image of a saint, and I don't claim that the saint is God, I am not committing idolatry. Those of you who have been to a Catholic church, you have probably seen images or statues of the Virgin Mary and the saints inside the church. To many, that is idolatry. However, many don't realize that God himself allows images in his temple. In the first book of Kings, chapter 6, verses 26 through 29, we read, 26. The height of the one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was it of the other cherub. 27. And he set the cherubims within the inner house. And they stretched forth the wings of the cherubims, so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall, and their wings touched one another in the midst of the house. 28. And he overlaid the cherubims with gold. 29. And he carved all the walls of the house round about with carved figures of cherubims and palm trees and open flowers, within and without. The height of both of the cherubims was about 15 feet tall, and the wingspan 15 feet wide, both being made of gold, both placed in the inner sanctuary of the temple. In case you didn't know, the temple with the two cherubims is the same temple that Jesus visited. Jesus saw them, but didn't instruct the cherubs to be destroyed. Now there are two verses that explain that being a covetous person is considered idolatry. What does it mean to be covetous? A covetous person is someone who has an obsession to own earthly possessions. For example, being greedy is considered idolatry. According to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 5, 5 For this ye know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. If I am a covetous person, I am an idolater. And in Colossians chapter 3, verse 5, the Bible tells us to not be covetous, because if we are covetous, we are idolaters, and that we must mortify ourselves from earthly things. 5 Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth: fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry. So are Catholics committing idolatry because they have images of the saints and the Virgin Mary? No, because we Catholics don't claim that the saints or Mary are God. Idolaters are those who claim something, someone, or an animal is God, and those who have a high obsession with earthly things.